You can't wake up and be a coward. You have to face everything in yourself.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how I can find a place that's in my power and still soft without the retreating and without the need to push forward either.
Well, you stand still in love, but also with boundaries. Loving boundaries, loving care. Right? See, people think, oh, you wake up or you're a meditator or you do that, and suddenly you're just this soft leaf in the breeze that you can just crush and try. No, you have boundaries still. And sometimes you have more because the ignorance has you see so much more ignorance and you see so many more agendas of what people are up to without even them realizing a lot of the time. They just have these patterns and they're playing them out and they don't know, but you start to see them a lot clearer and a lot easier. So you may have more boundaries because you know what if that happens and that happens and then that happens, then we've got a big problem. Right? So you can see them and you might have to put boundaries in really early because you know the sequence of what's going to happen. Does that make sense? So being at peace and still and doing this work doesn't mean you weaken. You become more powerful in a loving way, in a caring way, and less concerned about what people think of you. So you're able to be more on point with your interactions. You can't wake up and be a coward. You have to face everything in yourself. And the world doesn't even approve of what you do in our country. It tries to interfere with it. It doesn't like it. It tries to mess with it. You have to be able to rebel, and a true, honest reality rebellion. And when that starts in your household, in your workplace, and not in an unkind, toxic way, in a way that makes things work and everybody can stand in their power. You're not trying to take anything from anybody. You're just representing what a powerful man or woman, whatever you are, is. And so you can stand in the middle of those two actions. You can just stand there in your power with love in your heart. And sometimes it might mean even curtailing an issue that's about to cause more problems. And if it's an attacker, just like we were talking earlier, well, it's time to defend yourself. It's not like, oh, no, I meditate. And some crazy bikie's coming at you or something. You do what you can to control the situation. It's just... Wouldn't it be lovely if you meditated your way onto a different platform and none of that happened? But you're still in the world. What is remarkable, though, that I noticed it quite radically. I started to notice that a lot of in things that would have happened weren't happening anymore. Like, because my energy body had cleared, when there was dangerous people around, there was nothing for it to bounce off. And there was no rumbling back and forth silently. Energy bodies meeting energy bodies, Wi-Fi signals meeting Wi-Fi signals. It would pass through and there wouldn't be these old dynamics play out. They started disappearing. But new dynamics set up, right? Now you're a spiritual teacher, so you get all that crap going on. Right? But a lot of those dynamics dropped away because that within me was dropping away. So you can stand there still and silently and just let things be as they are without interference and without manipulation. And if a boundary is required, a boundary is required. And with boundaries, as long as you're on point, the earlier the better, because any attack is much better defended much earlier on, whether it's physical or mental or energetic. It's a much smaller movement required. Just the slightest tap. Instead of you're on the ground rolling around.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it gets to that point with the retreating because it's just not... Yeah, I just think that I'm seeing the same thing that you've seen, but from the other side of the more I discover boundaries and being able to step into my power in a loving way, the less those things play out.
Mm.
And I guess it just means going against or letting go of or going against the full societal programming of what it means to be in your power, which is what it kind of feels like is just all of that messaging is so twisted. And the idea of me being in my power feels like all of those twisted thoughts coming back at me from everyone around.
Yeah, so. Good. And to be in your power usually means walking away and not even walking near the situation. You're not. It's just, you know what I mean. It's just you can see there's nothing to be done unless people are open or you know, somebody vulnerable, etc. I mean, I'm not talking about fighting situations, but just you get more clear on what people are carrying and how they're moving and what's going on for them and whether you want to be engaged with that, and because you know that the words are going to come from there or they're going to come from a superficial place covering that. It doesn't mean I avoid people or anything. I'm just saying it's if people are really agitated, it's probably not great to be engaging with them. Because it's going to, you're talking to a frame. You're not talking to what that person is under that frame. So if there's going to be any communication, it's just trying to relax them out of that frame somehow and then letting that frame know, I'm not to be played with. I'm not to be bullied here. I'm aware of what's going on, and no, that could be done very simply. Because people that like to bully know who they can bully. They can feel it, that what's in them without even mental processes going on. It's an energetic thing. They just know who's bullyable and who isn't. So it's super important for us to come into our power, and it makes life so much easier because a lot of these interactions start to die off. These experiences start to die off. It's quite incredible. Like the world really, you hear it before awakening, like, you know, the world changes when you change. And it is very true. It is very, very, very true. You hear all these sayings, yeah, whatever. Some guy was bored and was writing this stuff down one day, you know, watching the grass grow. But it's true. So much of it's true. And it's really directly experienceable, but you don't really hear the words until afterwards. Oh, that was spot on. They make sense now. So if we carry a fear vibration or a weak vibration, bullies sense it. They can tell. Or people that are even off can sense it, or they can sense it. And what's in them it does a silent measuring of what it can get away with. And now you've got an interaction that you probably don't want. And life follows these interactions, as in your joy of life and your happiness of life and the quality of it for you and the others. So just, you know, I don't want to use the word stand your ground, but don't surrender. You don't have to. You surrender within, but you don't have to surrender to toxic frames or difficult frames. You can help the other if you stay still and calm. Makes sense? When you recoil from it or fight it, you're enabling it. You're in a war, and war creates more of the same. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I think that point really, really helps.
If people are left unaccountable in general over time, it's bad for them too. It's really bad for them because there's no one reining them in. It's like the kid in rough area that has no dad. They just go join gangs and go crazy. There's no one holding them accountable and putting boundaries in, so they have their peers, and it's just chaos. Because their peers are lost too. They're just struggling too. It's no one wins. And that's an extreme version, but just pull it back into our daily life as well. There's just layers and levels of it.